software from Network Optics. And we'll just bring it up here. A moment. And we're just going to go to My NX, okay? Just if it, in this case, I have already logged in, but if you don't have an account, just create one, log in, and then you'll be presented with this page. So we just go to download. Now, there's 3 different types of downloads. Okay, we've got the latest release, which is the major release, and generally you download this one. But then we also have the monthly patch, which is any little updates from that might be fixes to say high vision cameras or anything else. It'll go into this monthly patch, and that monthly patch is just add-on to the latest release. Or we can go to the beta version. So this one is still in development. Don't install it on commercial or like your client sites, but at home, if you like, play around with it. It's got a lot of updates to it. So with this release, we're going to have mobile notifications. And there's a lot of other monitoring tools that it comes with. And in fact, we're going to be looking at this one today because I've been testing it. Seems pretty stable, so we're going to use that. Okay, now I've already downloaded it. And it's just here. Just agree to that. Check out your options. Okay, now in the options, you've got the choice for client and server. So if this is just the server itself, you can do this one. If it's a client's PC, download and install just the client only. And if it's a low-powered server that you're putting the server software on, just put this one on. But in our case, we're going to do both. And we just go install. Yes. Wait for Advanced to accept the software. And during this, if you've got any questions, just yell out or put a message through. Greg, would you be able to just watch out for any messages and just let me know about them? Just launch that. So there's a fresh install. So we just go set up new system. If you had another server already running on the site and you want to merge it, this is the way you can do it. But we'll just go new system here. Test system. We want to go to advanced system settings. So in here, we have the choice to allow NX to optimize the cameras, okay, which we'll leave on. And we've got enable device auto discovery. So this, if we have it ticked, it's going to snip out all your cameras that are on your network and try and add them in. In this case, I'm going to turn that one off. And statistics, yeah, leave that on. And go next. Name the system. Put a password in. Go next. System's ready for install. Okay. So this is basically your home screen for NX. Pretty much everything that the user will interact with is going to be on this screen. There's no split up of live view and playback. It's all in one. Okay. Before we add any cameras in, we're just going to go up to, on your navigation pane on your left-hand side, I'm going to run you through these. So this test system, that's the whole system itself. Now, a system can be made up of multiple servers, and those servers are going to have the settings from the actual system up here. So there's my server there. If I had multiple servers, they'd be in here, okay? And web pages, users, local files. We'll go through those later. We'll just right click on the system, and we want to go to system administration. Now, the first thing that you would do is you would go to licenses and add them in. So when you purchase from Ness, they'll give you the licenses. This is where you put them in, just down here. You put it in and then just go activate license, and then they'll populate up here, okay? Then we want to go over to NX Cloud. So the NX Cloud is linking it to your account, all right? So we're going to go to connect system to NX Cloud, put your details in. Now, if you don't have a cloud account yet, just go create account, go through the settings, and then once you've got it, just put it in here. Okay, so that's all locked to my account. So if you, or me for instance, if I went to my phone, I logged into the app with my credentials, it would show up in there, okay? Then what we want to do, we want to go over to email notifications. So I do this first because often it can be forgotten. And what this will do is it's going to allow you to essentially, if there's any issues with the server, it's going to email you and whoever else you put into the system. So IT administrators, whoever it may be, if there's a storage issue, they're going to get an email. So I'm going to put those settings in. And then we're going to go test, and it should come up fine. Yep. Apply that in. And that's what we're going to do there. And then we're going to go to general. So this step is, if you only have one server on site, skip this step. But if you've got multiple servers on site, we want to merge them together. So what we'll do is we'll go to system, right click on it, go merge systems, and then you can put the IP address in. I think it was 10. Yep, it found it. So you're about to merge the current system, test system with system. So what that means is it's going to combine them together, okay? And then it's giving you the choice where, you know, when we put two servers together, they can only have one group settings. So in my case, I want the system settings from my current system and not the Raspberry Pi, okay? And I just click merge. You can see here, both our servers are merged together, nice and quick. Now that we've done that, before we add any cameras, we want to make sure our storage is all set up properly. You want to make sure that before any cameras are put on the system, that it's not going to record to the operating system drive, because if it does, it's going to fill it up, and then you're going to have stability issues. Say on Windows, you'll probably see blue screening. It might not even just load up, and Linux is going to be the same deal. It's going to have issues. So I'm going to click on my server here, and these are settings that are specific to that server. So the name of it, I'm just going to go desktop, apply that in, go storage management, and we can see here that the operating system drive, it's actually ticked, which means that if it records, it's going to have issues in the long run. So let's turn that one off. Apply that in. Now, the other options in here, if you've got a NAS or a SAN or something like that, you can add those settings in here. Yeah, your network resource, so the SMB3 iSCSI, sorry, no, just SMB3, put the URL in, the admin password, login details, and just go OK. And that will come up in here, and then you just turn it on. The other thing that you should probably do, see when I highlight or put my cursor over the storage drives, it's saying, do you want to use this for the analytics data? So depends on how big your operating system drive is, but typically I don't recommend putting that onto the operating system drive. Just put it onto one of the storage drives. So you just click it, and it'll say store analytics data there, and then that's it there. All right. Okay, that in. So now that we better do this one as well, the Raspberry Pi. In this case, I've only, yeah, that's correct. I've got an external USB hard drive there, 1 terabyte or 915 gig. It's turned on, and it's not allowing me to put anything onto the SD card. Okay. All right, so the server is basically set up for cameras. Now, what we want to do is we've got to prep the hard drive, prep the camera. So close out of that. Now, with Ness, it'll be high vision cameras. So I like to use the batch config tool. And we want to activate that camera. So we activate, put a password in. And then we want to change, well, you can change the IP. In this case, that one will work just fine for me. Now, we're then going to decide where that camera is going to go. Okay, so I'm going to put it to my desktop. I'm going to right click on that server and go add device. Okay. So we're basically going to put in the IP address here, user credentials, or we can do a subnet scan. So 192.168.1.1. Scan it in, and theoretically it should find it. Okay, if you had multiple cameras, they would list down here as well. So I'm going to add that in. So at this point, the way NX Witness and Hikvision work is that you have to activate the camera, but then once it's activated, NX recognizes that it's a Hikvision camera, and it'll actually add a non-viv account to the camera itself. Potentially on, maybe say on the older cameras that have an old firmware, you might have to go into the camera and add in a non-viv account. But with latest software, latest firmware, it runs just fine. So close out of that. I'm just going to add a setting because I want to add some more cameras. So what we're doing here is we're turning on auto discovery, and it's going to sniff out other cameras that are on the network. So I've got a test program that we've got that will add in cameras for me that are just, they're basically just an emulation. It's not a real camera, it's just a test. Then once I've got those cameras up, I'm just going to quickly turn that off. Just on that note, with auto discovery, if you've got, for whatever reason, you might have, say, another server, a Hikvision NVR on site, and you're trying to have two servers, so NX Witness and a Hikvision NVR joining to the same camera, you want to turn the actually the optimization off. And what that means is NX, whatever you do, it's not actually going to change their frame rates or anything like that. Because if you have that one turned on, NX is going to tell it to go to 7 frames. The Hikvision NVR is going to say, hey, I need 15 frames. And it's going to confuse the camera. Stability issues are going to happen. So just make sure you turn that one off if you're in that scenario. In this case, I'm going to keep it on. Okay, so got a heap of cameras here. By default, they're not going to be recording. We have to turn that recording on. So I click on the first camera, hold down the shift key, go to my last one, right click on it, go camera settings, and I'm going to go recording. I'm going to turn that recording on, and then we can decide what the camera is going to do. So let's just do motion at, yeah, we'll do 20 frames a second, and we just drag it over on the schedule. Maybe. Sorry, I'm just in the beta software, so I might have encountered an issue. Oh, licenses. Yeah, so I had the licenses from the previous installation, so I'll just quickly grab a few. That should be enough. If I go in here, camera settings, there we go. Just apply that in. Now, the other thing we can do with the schedule is we can decide, say, between, I don't know, midnight and 6 AM, it has a frame rate of, say, 6 frames a second, okay? And what we can do is to say that one there and that one there. During those periods, it's going to be 6 frames a second at medium resolution with a max bit rate of around 1.5 terabytes, okay? Apply that in. And then the other things we can do is minimum days and maximum days. So a good example would be a premise that sells alcohol. They've got liquor licensing regulations there. They need a minimum of, say, 31 days. We can go, all right, on this specific camera, we need to guarantee that it gets 31 days, okay? So what it will do is it's probably, if you don't have enough storage to begin with, other cameras are going to get lesser days because this camera is being prioritized, okay? Pre and post, 5 seconds. So if there's an event, 5 seconds before that event, it'll have recording, and 5 seconds after is the post recording. It's going to be rare that you go into the expert tab up the top. There might be scenarios where you don't have a substream and you needed to do motion recording. So with motion recording, just grab this one here. Okay, this motion recording is done by the substream. Okay, so if you had a camera that had issues with the substream, you could turn on and force the motion detection for, say, the primary stream, okay? And that way you can still keep going. Just what a note is when you do a mainstream for motion detection, your CPU resources are going to skyrocket. So it's very rare, but it is there for you to use if you need to. So let's just go in, we'll go into this camera here again. We're going to go from the first tab. So in the general, we can rename it. So let's call it camera 1, apply that in. We've done the recording. Let's do the motion. So with NX, you can have different motion sensitivity areas. So in this case here, I can have it so at the bottom here, we've got a rating here. So 0 means no recording, 9 means highly sensitivity, basically continuous almost. So what we could do is we could have an area here that's on 6, area here that's further out from the actual camera. So we want it to be a higher sensitivity. We can go 8. We can do whatever we want. We've got full capabilities. And we just apply that in. And fisheye, well, we don't have one there, but you can turn that on. That's fine. Okay, so the cameras are all there. They're all recording. What we can do now is let's actually set up further the failover. So what we do, let's just minimize that. We can right click on the desktop server and go server settings, go to general. We can turn on the failover because by default it's turned off. And we can turn on the failover priority. So before I get there, sorry, max cameras on the server. So what that means is if there's another server that's died and it's got a lot of cameras on it, we can go, all right, out of those, say, 100 cameras, we only want it to have 20, for instance, okay? And what we can do is go 20, and then we can give the camera priority, okay? So we could have this camera, this camera, this camera on high, and these all are on medium. And what that'll mean is these have prioritization over the ones that are medium. So if we've got 20 cameras max that we can put onto it, and we want these ones, we want to guarantee that these ones come first because they're the most important. Okay, that's fine. Apply that in. Then we go over to our other server. So in this case, we've got a little Raspberry Pi. We turn on the failover. Now, I believe with the Raspberry Pis, it can only have a max of, say, 12. It realizes it's a low-powered device and it just can't handle that many. So failover priority, it's the same deal again. These are all the cameras. So yeah, just make sure it's turned on. So what I'm going to do, what you really want to do on site when you're doing this is, if you've guaranteed that failover is going to happen, you want to test it. So what we can do, I'm going to turn off the network optic service so that all the cameras are going to be pushed over to the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to stop it. And what we can see is this server is now disappeared. It can't be recognized. What we've just seen is these cameras have failed over. Okay, that's automatically seen that the other server's gone, and it's gone, all right, give me as many cameras as I can have. Okay, and then it's still recording. It's all there. So I'm going to turn that on now. So the server's going to come online, but it takes around a minute to for the cameras to be switched over. And the reason for that is you might have a server that's continually rebooting for whatever reason after, say, 10, 15, 20 seconds. And we don't want them to be shuffling around so often, okay? So it should take about a minute to get on operational. And what we'll see is all these cameras will be pushed over to the main server. So while that's doing that, what we can do is go through the actual, interaction with the cameras. So let's bring up some cameras. All we have to do is left click on them. It's about to switch over by the look of things. Yeah. So I'm going to bring up some other cameras there too. And what we can have on the actual screen layout, we can have cameras from both servers at one time. So it's just going to look like it's one giant server. Okay. We can see here all the cameras are switched over. So we can just double click, brings them over. If you don't like that screen layout, just hold down your left click, select them all, just press delete. They're all gone. Nice and easy. We'll bring those up again. This is probably due to the fact that this the camera emulator, so that it's going to take a while for those cameras to populate. Okay. So on our screen, we've got our cameras here. If you have a lot of cameras on the screen, it's likely not to display the mainstream. In this case, right now, we are at the full resolution. But say if we do have that power to change that. So if I click on it, select them all, right click, I can go in and change the resolution. So I can force it to the low. It's having issues with the emulation. Interesting. Sorry about this. Okay. So on here, we can actually right click on it. This is going to be a test because it might actually not like it, but we'll soon find out. Yeah, it's all to do with that camera emulation. Interesting. Yeah, that's where you would do it there. And if you're on a real site with real cameras, it will work just fine. So what you can do is do auto, so it looks at your processing power, or you can put it to low, you can put it to high. It's up to you. Typically, the auto will work just fine. So yeah, up here, right, we've got all our settings, all our features for that camera. So what we can do is we can create a zoom window. Okay, so I could have it so it's like that. I could add another one in. So if you've got a high resolution camera, this can actually be a really effective tool. Okay, then what we can do, just if you want to get rid of them, just go to close out, and then we're back here. So the other option we can do is a smart search. So we can have it, this is a pretty active area, but what we can do is we can drag a box, let's just drag it, make a smaller one there, and any events that happen within this box will appear both on the right-hand side here or at the bottom. So at the bottom in the time bar, they're all marked as red. So using our scroll bar, we can just zoom in and they're all there for you. We can then go over here We can go to the next one. And so that way you can search really quickly through it. Okay. Other option is we can just do a quick snapshot. So click, go back here. By clicking this one here, just does a JPEG or a PNG file. You got those two options there. Name it, send it to wherever you want, nice and easy. You can even put a timestamp in as well. Okay. Then the other thing we can do, so sometimes it can be really good with warehouses or in hallways of offices. You can actually flip it like this. Okay. And so what it does is it just moves it around. So that looks funny right now, but if you had a camera that was in a hallway, that could be very handy, because in a hallway, you don't need a lot of horizontal field of view. It's all about the vertical. Okay. All right. Now, let's just bring up that camera again. We're going to do a export of footage. So generally this is instant, okay? This is meant to be very instant. In fact, it's probably the Raspberry Pi and the USB hard drive. So at the bottom, we've got our time bar. And what we can do is we can just select, say, 9 a.m. till, say, 8:30. Okay. And all we have to do is to export footage is just go right click, export video. And we got the choice of single camera or multi-camera or multi-video. Okay. Now, in our case, we're just doing one camera. Okay. So we could put a timestamp in. This is our timestamp here. We could put on the top right over here. We can up the font size as well, so it's nice and easy to see. We can add an image in, so this might be your logo if you wanted to do that. We could put text in. Put the in, like, you know, for instance, if the event happened at a specific time, you could just put a note in there to say, go to 8:03, for instance, for the incident. Nice and easy to see. And we got also the rapid review. So with a rapid review, what it will do is essentially the initial export time was 36 minutes, okay? But we want to compress that down to, say, 1 minute, for instance. And so it just speeds it up, essentially. A use case of this would be to a lot of construction companies. They want to see the speed, like the progress of the building of the skyscraper or whatever it is. And what this can do is it does it all for you. Just compresses that time all the way down to 1 minute. And so you've got a bit of a time lapse going on. Okay. Then at the bottom, folder. So this is where you export your footage, the location of it. And then this is the name, okay? And all you do is just go export, okay? And then that's done, okay? If we had multiple cameras, if you have multiple cameras, you want to do a multi-video, you just can't do many MKVs at one time, okay? So you just go to multi-video, and if you had a lot of cameras selected, you bring them over to the screen, and they would just show up all in here. And we would just go and send it to the location that we want to do it, give it a name. And then we got two choices for how that footage is exported. Okay, so the easiest one is the exe file. Okay, so if you double click on that file, essentially what will happen is it'll be this client software that opens up. Okay, it's going to look no different. Within that, you can search at the bottom. You can export footage from that exe file. It's all there for you. If, however, you're doing a really large export, like multiple days and multiple cameras, that sort of thing, you're going to go for an NOV file, okay? And an NOV file is basically a file that the NX client can look at, it knows what it is and it can search through it. So say if we exported the NOV file, okay, and once it was all done, what we could do is go up to the top left, go open, and then we could open up that file, okay, and all the footage will be there for you. Okay, nice and easy. Okay. The other thing that I just noticed is if we've been playing back, okay, and what we can, if we want to go back to live, bottom right hand corner is the live button. You can click on that and it'll come back. So again, that would usually be instant, just not in my case. Okay. There's a few things I want to show you in the web browser of this software. Before that, is there any questions on the playback and interaction with the cameras?
There was one question not related to that. One of the questions come in, can the server run on a Mac operating system?
The server itself, no. The client software, yes. The reason is it's pretty rare to have a Mac server be the server, and we haven't developed the software for that. But we realize people use Macs, and that's where we've made a client software for it, just not the server.
Fair enough.
No other questions so far?
Doesn't look like it, so
nope.
May as well continue on.
Rightio. Alrighty. So next step is we're going to have a look at the web browser. So we're going to right click on our system. We're going to go open web client, put our details in. There's actually a few settings in here that the beta software that I've got running on here, it's got, yeah, it's added a few extra functions there, so it's really cool. But if we look at the server, this is the port, so 7001. If you need to change it there, okay? We want to default the server. We can just go restore factory defaults, detach from the system. So in our case, we've got two servers that are merged together. This is the way to actually detach the system or split them up, okay? And then if you need to restart the servers, like I did before through the services tab, you can also do it here as well, okay? System, that's the name of the system. Merge it, you can also merge systems through the web browser. You can disconnect it from the cloud, which I showed you how to add it to it. Then we've got traffic encryption. So what that means is the forced traffic encryption means the connection between A to B is encrypted, but the footage is not. And if we want to encrypt that footage, we have to tick this one. So they've warned that it can increase CPU resources, and that is true. In my case, I haven't seen much of an increase, but it does exist there. All right. So if you're going to need customers that are concerned with encryption and security, you know, this is a feature that you can show them and say, you know, it's all encrypted, it's all nice and safe. Okay. All right. Next tab. So the viewing. Okay. Typically, you don't view through the web browser. It is there to use. Okay. But typically, you don't. It's not as good as the client software, all right? Monitoring, so this is the actual health of the server itself. So in this case here, we've got the CPU is at 1%. I do have a powerful server as system here, but you know, NX Witness doesn't require a lot of CPU resources. Yeah, it's one thing you typically don't have to worry about. And even RAM, again, I've got a lot of RAM in the system, but it's only using about 12%. Your hard drives are there, and it just gives you an overview. So that looks high here, but it's actually 12. It's basically scaled the actual, you know, graph down because the max setting was actually, max figure was actually 12. So yeah, 12% for the RAM, that's nothing. Okay. Storage gives you an overview of what storage locations you have on the main server, gives you the logs, and so forth. Okay. I'm just going to get out of there. There's one thing that we haven't touched on, okay, and that's the user setup. So we got to our system, our test system up here. We go to system administration. We go to users. So I'll create my other account. So what we can do is go new user. I'm going to put my actual email address in. And then we can define what that user is allowed to see. So we do have about 4, generalized permission roles. So administrator, they can see everything. Advanced viewer, they can see all the cameras, they can bookmark, that sort of thing. The viewer, very basic, they can see the cameras and export video, and that's about it. And the live viewer, they can only see the live. They can't play back, that sort of thing. But, there's a lot of circumstances where you need to modify that. You need to go into specifics to suit the customer. So what we can do is go edit role and new role, and we'll just go custom 1, for instance. And we can go, all right, what are the permissions? Okay, are they allowed to see, edit the camera settings? Can they see the video wall, the event logs, that sort of thing? We can go yes to that. Then we can go, all right, this user can only see these cameras here and only see these 4 layouts that I've created previously. So that way we can really customize what the user wants, because not every end user wants all their staff members to see everything or export footage, okay? And a word of note, with the NX Cloud here, it's linked to this account, okay? But what that means is, it means it's linked to mine. But if I need to, or the customer wants it linked to their account, okay? What that will mean is all the users that are in here, okay, they will disappear, all your NX Cloud users, because those ones are linked to my account. So when doing an initial install, work with the customer and find out who wants to be the owner of the system, okay? It's often best that the installer bit has ownership of it, because staff members change, including ownership, okay? And that way, if it's linked to your account, you can disable account usernames and everything like that. You've got full control, okay? So now that we've done the user accounts there, the other thing we can do is we can monitor who is actually being used in the system. So I went up to the 3 lines here, and I've gone to audit trail, and I can see here what is actually happening. So I can see, let me just get rid of these. I can see that, there's been logins at these times by myself as admin. I've looked at watching archive. If I go to cameras here, I can see what that user has actually been looking at. So that's what the user was looking at that time. So if you've got, there's end users, and there's the staff of the end user are looking at the system for another reason, you can actually find out what they're actually looking at, okay? The other way you can look at the server and see how it's performing is going over, just dragging over the server. I'll drag the other one over as well. And we can see how the system is performing. So just like in the web browser, we can see it here as well. Okay. Any other questions? Nope.
Nothing's come through at this stage, so let's continue.
Oh, we've got one there. No, Josh, no thanks. All right, no dramas. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect from this server. I'm going to log out of here. So that was me linking to my my NX Cloud account. If I had another site, for instance, I'm just going to go to my actual email address. So if I had a heap of other sites that I had my account linked to, you would actually see them all here. Okay, so let's look at Ness, for instance. So if they're on a different version number, it's going to let you know. You don't have to go over to the cloud or NX or the NX website to download the footage. The NX client will just do it for you. Okay. And in fact, within the server itself, you can actually update the software automatically if you choose to. Nice and easy. In fact, while that's downloading, just going to open up here and then go to NX VNS. Okay, this is the cloud portal. Rightio. So in my Ryan NX Witness at Gmail account, I can see all the systems that I have. Okay, and if I say click on this one here, we've got some setting changes that we can do. We can also look at the information. So again, this is the beta software, okay? And in the beta software, we've got more monitoring tools than we had previously, okay? I'm still getting across them all, looks all very good. So, you know, our alerts here, this is just a general overview. We can say that on all servers, we had these issues here. We could also drill down and go between the server or the servers that we've got. So that one here, those issues, the Raspberry Pi had no issues at all. And we can see our storage locations, if there's been any errors, any warnings, network interface, any problems there. We can drill down to the actual system that it is. So what version, the users. And then there's monitoring, just like the bar graph, we've got those settings there as well. Cameras. So often you can have camera reboots and things like that. And we can say that, hey, there's probably a camera issue right here. The camera was offline for 1 hour, one time. You know, you can actually get a count of how many times it's actually rebooted. Storage locations, network interfaces, you know, it's all there for you. Just wait a moment for this. There's a question from Sam. What are the main differences, features with other VMS softwares, marketing tricks? So with NX Witness compared to other more enterprise solutions, we don't have subscription fees. Okay, once you've paid for it, you've got it. Okay, in 5, 10 years time, you need to update the software. You don't have to pay for it; it's all there for you. So that can be a big saving. Other companies out there, they charge per year if they want the updates. We're not in anything like that. the way we see it is, you know, once you've paid for it, you're done. I mean, you can just update as much as you want. There's no problem with us. The other advantage that we've got over others is that we're more efficient. Okay, we don't need massive servers, massive CPUs, big video cards. Our software is very, very efficient. So, you know, for instance, I'm running a Raspberry Pi, and that can probably handle, I'm not too sure what the limit is on a Raspberry Pi, but I reckon I can handle maybe 12 cameras, maybe even more, and it'll run stable. You know, you don't need big systems. You don't need massive Xeon processors with 128 gig RAM. You know, i3, i5, little Xeon, it's fine. It keeps going. Other thing would be the actual usability. You know, other enterprise solutions, they're actually pretty, they got a lot of features just like us, but they're being split up in a way that you actually have to know the system and use the system quite often, whereas NX Witness is very intuitive. You know, there's been, I know, you know, circumstances where, you know, an older lady didn't really know how to, you know, use a computer, used NX Witness, got to know in 5 minutes, and then taught, you know, others how to use it. It's just that easy to use. So, yeah, it's just great software. All right. Okay, now we've got the Ness server up here. So, again, had all the sites that are linked to my account. Okay, I'm going to choose the Ness one. And we can see here, there's a lot of cameras here. So let us, you know, let's just pick out some cameras. Remember, this is a remote connection. That's actually a lot quicker than what I had locally. So you know, we can just bring our cameras here, just drag and drop them over. Time bar, all nicely populated really quickly. That's another advantage as well. You know, other VMSs, their time bar, it takes ages to populate. NX Witness, it's instant. You know, I haven't had a system that could have, say, 5 years in it. I haven't seen that before. But if you did, it would be instant. You know, it just quickly populates and quickly searches. So I can just go in. So if it says no data on those ones there's no data there. But, you know, this one here had data. Probably choose a better time than that. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sure there's people there. Yeah, we can see people there. Search again, and you can see that it's just instant. And we'll just go through, you know, as I was talking before about the resolution. We can right click on it, go to resolution, and we can actually force it to say hi. And we can actually see, if we click the information icon, we can see it's at the full resolution there, okay? Yeah. If we don't like that view, you can just select it, done. Or you can actually just go and name so if you like this layout, you want to keep it, what you would do is just right click up here on the tab and go save layout as, and go test, okay? And you will see, once we get down to the bottom of all these cameras, get a layout, and we can actually see test 11 there. So if I closed out there, double clicked, all nice and easy for you. Okay. Yeah, Sam says, does it support the heat map analytics? I am not too sure yet. I'll look into that. Greg, would you be able to grab Sam's details and I can get back to him on that one?
Yep, not a problem.
Right.
Done. Yep.
Rightio. Are there any other questions? Nothing that I need to show you at all? No. Well, that's basically it from me. Look, thanks for your time. If you have any questions at all, you've got particular installs, you want to know certain things about how it could be approached, talk to Ness, and they can talk to me as well, and we can just take it from there.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Just before we do finish, there's a couple other things just like to show you, is with regards to our M1 to NX interface. One of the things with NX is you can program a lot of things to interface into it. So we'll have a look at our NX. We've written a software package that allows you to, when something happens on an M1, you can get it to do something on NX, and vice versa. From NX, you can get something to do on the M1. So what I'll do, if just take it back here, just share my screen so you should be able to see it. So with our M1 interface, as I said, it's a software package that you can run either on any server, any NX server, or alternatively on its standalone, its own server on the network. So once you run this software package, what it allows you to do is to program it very simple. You go to the M1 tab up there, you put in the M1's IP address and port number, connect to there. We're now connected. We can hit synchronize, and what that does, it goes to the M1, pulls out all the zone names, output names, light names, tasks, etc., and puts it into the database of our M1 interface. We go to NX Witness, do the similar thing. So with NX, you put the NX server IP address. On this example, we're using it, got them both on the same server. So the software's running on the local LAN of 192.168.0.88. Put in the port number, username and password for that server for NX. We check that initializing, and we can go and check that we are logged in. Yep, we're authorized. And the same thing, we can synchronize camera names. Because we've programmed all the camera names in NX already, we can then synchronize it, pulls all the data or the camera names into our software, and effectively installation's complete. All we then need to do is write a rule. What do we want it to occur? So we write a rule similar to we do with the M1. So if I click on new rule here, we've got whenever and then. So whenever the M1 system is armed, disarmed, and of course when you click on that, it'll ask you what area. When an M1 output turns on or off, an M1 zone changes, an M1 task activates, or an M1 light changes. So as an example, I might go to light to a door zone. We've got our list of all the zone names because we synchronized that out of the M1. So in this example, when the front door goes into alarm on the M1, we can get it to do something on NX, and that could be perhaps send an email out with snapshots of the video of what caused it. It could be popping up to full screen. It could be bookmarking that event on NX so it's nice and easy to replay, whatever you want it to do. So we hit that, and then what do we want to do? We can either bookmark the event or activate a generic event on NX. And if we bring up my NX system here, a demo system we've got here in the office for NX, if I was to right mouse click or bring up camera rules, within NX, we've got a lot of camera rules we can write, so any effect that can happen on a particular camera. If I bring all the camera rules, so if I add a new rule, as an example, we said in our rule to generate a generic event. Maybe I jumped a step. Let's just go back a moment to our bridge. We put in generic events here, and we give the generic event a name. On this call, in this name, I'll call it GK Demo. Okay, so that's all we really need to do is to put a name in there. If I want, I can also assign some cameras. So if, for example, in that generic event, we wanted to send an email, if I select cameras there, it'll automatically go and get snapshots of that these particular cameras that we select and include in that email. But on this example, I'm just going to highlight the name. So we've got the name of that. We go back to NX. So in NX, what do we want to do? What event? I want to have either an analytics event, generic event, and so on and so on. So in this example, I'm going to select a generic event, and all we need to do is put in the description contains the name that we just called that GK demo. Now, this should be unique for every generic event, because if I call that GK space demo or GK space room, and I had another generic event that had the name room in it, it doesn't know. It's going to trigger both rules, because it's going to say, well, I've picked up the name room. So you've got to make sure that's generic. So then once that generic event, and that's the generic event that occurs, what do we want it to do? I can bookmark an event. I can activate a camera output, start recording, do a HTTP request, play sounds, send an email. Again, if I select send email and I've got the cameras selected in that M1 rule, it will automatically, without doing anything else, get the snapshot at the event of those cameras and email you out. I can set to full screen. So, for example, if I was to say, right, let's set something to full screen, we can select what camera do we want full screen. So let's say, for example, let's bring up the warehouse PTZ. On what particular layout? We're on the demo layout. And as Ryan showed you before, how we can make layouts, drag any camera across, make some big, small, or otherwise. And when I apply that, okay, so what's going to happen in our rule? See if we can bring this both on one screen. We've said whenever that front door becomes goes into alarm, then activate that demo. And we said when that GK demo, we want to bring up the warehouse PTZ at full screen. So if I can go back to there, let me just do that again. So I don't think I saved it. Helps if I select the right one. So whenever zone 1 goes in alarm, activate a generic event, GK demo. Helps if I hit the save button. So now we've got the rules that are generated there. So I can either obviously go and put that into alarm, or alternatively I can test it from here. So I can say, right, whenever that event occurs, we want to pop this up to full screen. So let's bring them both on the screen together. Okay, so when I test that, there we go, the PTZ comes up on the screen at full screen. If I was to activate it again, right, we're going to hit the test button, brings it up straight away. So that's how quick it works from there. So virtually any event can occur on an M1, can activate that. We can also, because we've got voice control on the M1, we can also have the M1 voice control activate something on NX. So as an example, I've got it set up that when something happens on the M1 on the voice control, we can get a something. So I'm going to bring the training room up to full screen. So I've got a Google Home here. So let's activate it. Hey Google, show training room. And there we go, the training room comes up full screen, etc. So when we were to do voice control, we can do something. We can obviously also turn lights on and off from the M1 as well. Now the beauty of this is one way. That was going from something happening on the M1 to activate something on NX. We can also do it the other way. So as an example, I can set soft triggers. You can see down the bottom right-hand side, I've got 2 soft triggers set up within NX. I can turn a light on, turn a light off. Now that could be also activating an M1 output to open a boom gate. So we could have it, for example, a car drives in, goes over a loop on the road or breaks a beam, triggers an M1 zone, so it brings that camera up at the boom gate full screen. The person can talking on the intercom, and then I can go from the soft triggers to open the boom gate if I want to. So as an example, I'm going to turn the light off. So if we turn the light off in the training room, and then we can turn the light back on again. So as you can see, we can easily control our M1 lighting outputs from here as well. So that is how simple it is to have the M1 to NX interface. It's a free software package where you simply just put the M1's IP address in, the NX witness IP address in, and then we write rules of what we want to activate and when. So that was just a very quick example of interfacing from there, etc. All right, some other questions that come in that can we load NX maps so they can plot a camera location? We can. I'll take this and Ryan can correct me if we need anything there. So what we can do is on the layout, so here's a layout that we've particularly got. We can change the background. So let me just perhaps bring a new blank layout. I've got at the moment a layout here being just our logo. But on the particular layout, I can go to background settings if I can remember where it is. Ryan might have to remind me. Is that under layout settings? Here we go. Background. So I can go and actually put a picture there. So if I had a picture of something, bear with me while I find a picture somewhere. Got to remember where my pictures are.
Jeremy, with the maps, do you mean like Google Maps, for instance?
Or a site map? I'm just looking for the map. I'll bring it up in a moment, in case it was, which you can still bring Google Maps up.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So just, yeah, okay. Yeah, that should be possible. Yep. Yeah, that's no problems.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up some pictures I've got here somewhere. Here we go. So here's some examples that we've got. Should have. Okay. Here we go. So here's an example, a site map here. And once we got that site map up, we can then just drag the cameras across. So for example, I might bring a camera over there, scale it to what size we want that camera to be. Let's minimize it a bit more. Bring another one perhaps down over near the door there. So you get the idea. So you can drag the cameras, put whatever side. Now they're actually live, those cameras there, live view. So you've got the cameras on there. So if I want to bring up what's happening at that door there, if I click it just once, I can bring it up to a particular size. Or alternatively, I can double click it and bring it up full screen, etc. So hopefully that answered your question, Jeremy, on a floor plan there. Very good. All right. Any other questions that we may have missed at all? Just scrolling back. Okay. No other questions at all? All right, good. Well, I guess if there's any questions that do pop up, by all means, just drop me an email, etc. Because there's probably a lot that will come up in once we hang up. Either myself or Ryan will be able to answer you. We'll get back to Sam on that other question. There we go. So Ryan's he's just put his email details in there.
Yeah. So any questions at all, just send me an email and I can look into it for you.
Great. All right. Well, again, thank you very much, everybody. A recording of this video or the webinar will be on our Ness YouTube channel, hopefully by tomorrow. So you can download it and go through it again because there was a lot to take in. But hopefully that broke the ice and gave you a good oversight. So as Ryan mentioned, you can download the software for free. If you need a trial license to play it, you do get a trial license when you download it for free, etc. But we can also help you out with that. So if you want one for your office, play with it to get familiar with. And again, you only need the license for recording. So you can download it, bring cameras across, do whatever you need to do without a license, and at least get familiar with it, how you can set up the cameras on live, put them on your server, etc., and then just activate a trial license for recording and playing back, etc., and things like that. So if there's no other questions, let's call it quits here. And again, thank you very much, Ryan, for presentation, and everyone's for your attendance.
No worries at all.